So, unless you live in the middle of the Sahara Desert or somewhere similarly isolated, it's just impossible to live in a world as natural as the ones that our ancestors did. For one simple reason. No matter where you go, the world is absolutely flooded with electromagnetic fields. They're constantly emanating from all over, a constant byproduct of modern technology, from cell phones to X-rays to today's high-tech cars. Yeah, EMFs are everywhere and basically inescapable, and that's a problem because we have evidence that they're not harmless. In fact, we have all kinds of evidence suggesting how harmful they actually are. There are studies indicating that EMFs inflict stress on the body, not a dramatic amount, but enough constantly to gradually damage countless body systems. EMFs can break DNA strands, messing up cells, leading potentially to supercancers, diabetes, heart disease, depression, infertility, a whole slew of negative side effects or intended consequences. And all of this ought to be common knowledge, but scientists who investigate this question have had their reputations smeared, their research sabotaged. Does that sound familiar by any chance? All of this was ominous enough when EMFs were limited to our phones and other electric gadgets, but now on this program, we've had guests advancing the theory that these bioweapon injections are not actually mRNA vaccines at all. Instead, their mRNA shots are electromagnetic devices. We've heard a lot from Karen Kingston on this topic. In particular, Karen says that these shots include nanoparticles that can be activated by EMFs and then used to kill cells around them. Believe it or not, this topic intersects with one that Tucker Carlson's cancellation may be involved with just yesterday, the theory that he got canceled for his skeptical coverage of the vaccines. Fox has taken a lot of cash from Pfizer over the years, make no mistake. Yet at the same time, there's a lot that Tucker did do and did not uncover on his show, and maybe that was related to what got him potentially ousted as well. Karen Kingston joins us now with thoughts on all of this. Karen, thank you so much for coming. So EMFs translating languages essentially to those people who are injected or possess this nanotechnology as a result of shedding, even if they avoided the shots, can now be controlled and or killed. It's like a kill switch. Is that right?
Well, the electromagnetic fields do activate what they're calling a spike protein, which are the electromagnetic nanoparticles. So we're being exposed to these, whether it's in the aerosol attacks in the air or the food or the injections. And the injections are the highest quantity or toxicity level that you'll get of these nanoparticle technologies. So what I said early on or last year, that you cannot do gene editing technology. You can't produce spike proteins without electromagnetic fields. That's the basics going back to the 1980s out of La Jolla. And I was attacked for it. But, these aren't nano scissors. You need electromagnetic fields to split the DNA, to do the gene editing, to then produce the toxins. And then the electromagnetic fields can also control the nanoparticles. And I think what's really important is that we have these experts and doctors who are saying, there's no such thing as nanotechnology. That's a red herring. We really need to talk about mRNA vaccines and biology.
Well, haven't we already determined that mRNA is what the real red herring is here?
Yeah, the term mRNA vaccine or a biological spike protein, those are the red herrings. And the evidence is on Pfizer's website, the evidence is on Moderna's website, and the evidence is in the DoD contracts. So let's just go to another piece of evidence for your viewers. So everyone knows that Pfizer entered into a contract with the Department of Defense in July of 2020. If you go to the section for Manufacturing Development Plan for Pfizer, it states they have to adhere to the good manufacturing practices, not just for adulterated drugs, but also for adulterated devices. It specifically states that under 21 USC, regarding and manufacturing practices, GMP, this plan shall adhere to 351A2B. So 21 USC 351A2B, and I've worked on class 3 medical devices, is for class 3 medical devices. It is described here as a device under section 36E. We don't have time to go into section 36E today, but that was added under the Obama administration in the Cures Act for accelerated review and basically criminal biological experimentation on humans with breakthrough technology devices. So this is cited in the DoD contract. So they wouldn't cite the law that Pfizer needs to adhere to good manufacturing practices for electromagnetic devices unless there were electromagnetic devices in the injections. It's that simple. Don't overthink this. So a device is defined as basically a machine, an apparatus, or a contrivance. A contrivance is something that can be biosynthetic. So it's technology that imitates biology and can have medical or nutritional value. That's why they're putting these bioweapons in the food as well. So these are the definitions of what an electromagnetic device is. Now, the contract also goes on to talk about the lipid nanoparticle technology. It is technology. They state several times about the LNPs and the lipid nanoparticle formulation. How does the FDA define a lipid nanoparticle technology? Well, in 2011 and then in 2017, they updated their guidance on classifications for drugs versus devices. They specifically talk about gold nanoparticles. And this should make people's hair stand up, and this should make them outraged, and they should go and demand that these are removed from every facility in their community. They define a lipid nanoparticle as a device, and specifically when they talk about the gold nanoparticles, which Pfizer's are gold graphene oxide nanoparticles, I've shown that on your show, it says when they are injected into a tumor site and exposed to electromagnetic energy, they absorb electromagnetic energy and convert it to thermal energy, to heat energy. This heat is then transferred to the surrounding cells or tissue, and this heat transfer causes the cancer cells to die. So one of the mechanisms that this can actually exterminate people is that if there is electromagnetic fields that are given off from cell phone towers or from your cell phone itself, it can activate this technology in your body to give off enough heat to annihilate the cells and the tissues around this. I said this when I was on your show the very first time in July of 2021, and I was hit for it. But this is what it is. So there can be a kill switch to activate the nanotechnology. And there's more than one technology in here, and I think that's important for people to understand as well. It is programmable. As you go through the FDA guidance, it clearly states too, under a device, the term device does not include software functions. So you go to 360J of the law, and it basically says that the HHS secretary and the head of the FDA shall not include software function as part of the device if it's intended for maintaining, encouraging a healthy lifestyle and unrelated to the diagnosis, cure, or mitigation. So if our HHS secretary said, oh, well, we know there's software in this technology, but really it's for the benefit of people, we're not going to monitor it. Now, if you go to Moderna's old website, what do they call mRNA? mRNA is software. It is a temporary set of instructions for cells to make a protein. They call it software. If you go to Pfizer's website, what do they call it? They say mRNA is the instructions to code for the spike protein. They call it software codes. Stu, why don't people understand this? That this is a software program in nanotechnology?
Well, because like we've explained so many other times, so many people are used to listening to AM radio and watching cable broadcast news. That's what they do, and then they just tune out. They read the front page of their newspaper, and then they just tune out. They have conversations with people in their communities, and then you're just crazy for talking about it.
Yeah, but why don't attorneys understand this? Why don't
that is the real question. Why do people who know claim that they don't know? Why do people who know and know that they know do nothing with what they know? That is an enemy. That is somebody who's complicit in carrying out an extermination on a level like we've never seen before.
Well, and I want to be clear, this is in violation of U.S. law. The Congress cannot pass laws to make it legal to criminally experiment on human beings. So when the FDA approval happened on August 23rd of last year, I went on your show on August 25th and said, game over. I knew these were devices because under 18 U.S.C. 814.9, pre-market approval for a device, they had 2 weeks to disclose this advanced technology that's in these devices that were developed as a bioweapon. We've shown on your show that the mRNA vaccine technology was patented for use as a bioweapon. Ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine don't have these patents. So people were not disclosed because of these ridiculous laws. But under the Geneva Convention, Article 50, it states that willful killing, torture, inhumane treatment, including biological experiments, resulting in great suffering or serious injury to body or health, is the gravest international war crime you can commit. So we know these are technologies. We know no one was disclosed that these were technologies. We know these technologies are used as weapons of biowarfare. We know that they're activated by electromagnetic fields that went up all across our country during COVID-19 beginning in 2020. Why aren't people taking it upon their own authority to go to the sheriffs and say, these are weapons, get them out of my community now?
Yeah, that's exactly what needs to happen. And we had Sheriff Lamb on here the other day. Off the air, he told me that he wished that more people would come to him, more victims would come to him and tell him, tell the officers, tell the deputies, I have been injected with a bioweapon, or something as simple as I have been assaulted with a weapon which led to injury, or my mother was assaulted with an injury and it led to her death. People now need to fight for themselves. Go to your local authority, go to your sheriff, use real language. The language is this. These are weapons. You have been attacked. You have sustained an injury, or somebody that you know, love, and care about has been killed as a result of an assault with this weapon. It is time now to take legal action, criminal action, hold them accountable. It is time now to indict, try, and fry.